Good afternoon. My name is Erwin Eisenstein, although I frequently go by the name Ironstone on the web. Today, I'm here to talk about several things, but to start off with, I'd like to talk about the insurance companies and how they, along with the legal profession and the medical profession, frequently lock up the ability or prevent someone from getting timely medical help. It's almost like they're an ad for why socialized medicine might be best for the country. Okay, this is a composite index. In other words, I'm going to give a story here, but it's about one person who I know, and others have had to address similar things. So I'm going to call her Jane Doe. Okay, and her initial issue is no health care in America for me. She was involved in several auto accidents. Some of them may or may not have been her fault, but in others it was very clear that she was not at fault. And basically she's gone through a horror story. I'm going to call her Jane Doe again, because she believes her insurance company, Florida Farmers Bureau Insurance Company, has prevented her from getting proper medical care. And the way they do it is they don't want to pay her medical bills. And Jane Doe is not working now, but when she was insured, she did buy into the uninsured or underinsured medical contract that Florida Farm Bureau has in its insurance contracts. And what that means is if you're in an accident and the person who hit you or who was in the accident with you doesn't have insurance, then her company would pay for medical insurance under the uninsured motorist provision. Realize that about 25% of all Floridians don't have insurance because it's high. In fact, Florida is probably one of the top 3 highest insurance in the United States. Okay. Now, she's been involved, as I said, in 2 or 3 auto accidents. And her insurance company, again, is Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Company, has not paid for her medical bills and believes they have acted, and she believes they've acted in a willful and negligent way. I can't say if they've committed fraud or not, because I'm not an attorney, but I can believe they stalled paying for insurance bills because they're high and they're trying basically to get her to accept the non-payment. And this goes into another issue in this country. Insurance companies had consultants perform studies, and over the last 20 or 30 years, one of the studies was done by McKinsey, which is a consulting firm, and McKinsey came up with ways that insurance companies, especially large insurance companies, can avoid paying their customers medical bills. And if you look up on the web under deny, delay, and defend, you'll find a couple of books there about what insurance companies do in order to avoid paying their customers' health care after an accident. Now, Jane Doe has problems, and initially she went to a hospital, and the hospital basically did initial things, initial tests, said you're alive, you don't have to be in the hospital, why don't you go to a specialist so you can find out what you require. And that was done under a program called PIP, which I believe is personal insurance provision, but it is PIP, and it's about $10,000. So in the hospital, the PIP was paid, and PIP hasn't been updated in probably 20 or 30 years, so the amount that it covers, the $10,000, is not up to what the rates of medical care are today. Now what happens is she went to several specialists and healthcare providers, and what they wanted was they wanted her insurance company to guarantee their payments. So the insurance company says, well, we're not going to pay for those things. How do we know they're right? How do we know you're not overbilling us? Because large companies, insurance companies especially, can bargain with hospitals, can bargain with hospital groups to force them to accept lower payments. And hospitals have varying payment groups that they will or won't accept. But in any case, many doctors and many groups refused to see Jane Doe because she couldn't get something in writing from her insurance company, Florida Farm Bureau, that they would pay her medical bills. And what she did is, and doctors play games that way also because they recognize that they don't want to take people who have been in auto insurance cases because they may be underpaid, quote. I don't know what the underpayment is, but basically they're afraid that the insurance companies wouldn't pay the bills. So it means that someone is caught between a large insurance company on one hand and medical providers or doctors on the other hand who won't even examine her. So what she had to do was she had to fly out of the country to Germany, and she saw a specialist there who handles back injuries because she evidently has problems on vertebrae in her neck and her back. And the expert said, well, this is what it would take, and he said that she'd need an operation on her neck and back. It would probably be an operation that would cost about $70,000 or $80,000. In this country, chances are it would be $150,000 because the medical expenses in this country are significantly higher than in many other countries. Okay, so we've gone over this scam by the insurance companies where initially they delay accepting claims. And the longer they delay, the better it is for them. So if you are very persistent, they'll deny the claim. And sometimes they'll wait because there's a statute of limitations. If you don't sue them, I think within 4 years, you don't have an opportunity to sue them because the statute of limitations, the law says you have to do it within the 4-year limit. That changes by statute of limit changes with each state. For example, I was looking in Puerto Rico, you have to file an action against an insurance company within 1 year, or you effectively lose the right to sue them. So in any case, it gets to a point where people just don't go to doctors anymore because their insurance companies won't give them releases so that a doctor can examine them and then say, this is what you need. Doctors will avoid picking up people from auto accidents because of the time-consuming paperwork and all of the other paraphernalia associated with them getting involved in an auto injury accident. And I said there are several books that describe the games that are played by the insurance companies, and I can't say that doctors are blameless because they don't want to accept lower payments than what the insurance company or what the insurance companies are going to suggest to them. And third grouping involved is the legal profession. Legal profession members of the bar know what insurance is available and frequently won't pick up cases unless someone is willing to accept significantly lower amounts because the lawyers have a cost-benefit equation also, and they want to be paid. So you have three groups trying to get their money, and you have the poor sucker who in this country doesn't have socialized medicine, so they're not taken care of, and they're frequently left in a position of permanent injury, and they can't do anything about it. Okay. The result of these groups pulling in their own direction leaves the person who's been injured up a creek without a paddle. A person who's injured is not treated and frequently has to wait for years before having the proper medical care if they can wait that long. If you're in an accident, you have to ask your lawyer, and I'd suggest getting a lawyer, for the simple reason, if a judge has a lawyer against you, that judge is going to favor that lawyer against a non-lawyer in a case action because people don't know the steps to take to sue and then to follow up with all of the procedures. And it's a costly procedure because you have to go for depositions. That's where the lawyer examines the person and tries to admit the person may not have had seatbelts on. And a lot of that is just a bunch of junk, but if you don't respond to these papers, admissions, then they're accepted by the court. And it doesn't make a difference if your loved one is in a hospital or dying. They don't take that into consideration if you fail to respond. And that's what happened to Jane. A long-term boyfriend, like 15, 16 years, was in a hospital while the beginning of this action was taking place, and he died, and she was in a state of shock and had to pick up her own action because she didn't have a lawyer. In one of the instances, and she had Florida Farm Bureau insurance for about 6 to 8 years. And during that period, she may have had 3 or 4 accidents, I'm not sure which. But she was blindsided by a careless driver who was uninsured. And what happened is she thought that Florida Farm Bureau would help pay for her medical costs, but they refused to pick up any payments or minimal payments. They only paid the PIP And because they delayed and delayed, she wanted to ensure that her claim wasn't dismissed because it was outside of the time, the 4-year time for the statute of limitations. So she sued the insurance company. And she did this on her own, which is a brave person. So even though she had the extra uninsured or underinsured coverage, the insurance company refused to agree to write a letter saying that they would cover the insurance up to a certain amount, which would have been about $100,000. And the only way you can get that money is if there's a settlement or a court orders it. And when insurance companies and lawyers are up against a non-attorney, a pro se person, they will do anything that they can to get that person to give up. And that's what's been happening in this case. The attorney here, it's interesting. The hospital first, again, used up the personal injury protection insurance. That was $10,000, and told Jane Doe to go to specialists to try to get the other part of her insurance covered. She went to the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, and they also didn't want to be involved in auto accident cases because you never know how much time it will take, and they just didn't want to have to deal with the lawyers. So she had to leave the country. She went to Germany to have her condition examined by a German doctor who specializes in spine surgery, and she spent about anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 because of the airfare and the doctor's, tests and everything else. And her insurance company, Florida Phone Bureau, refused to pay that bill, even though she submitted it to them. Now, Jane has been in pain very, very frequently. Her life has changed dramatically. She doesn't sleep frequently because of the pain at night, and she has to, turn in her sleep. And it's difficult for her to basically stay in one position. Her neck hurts her, and because the operation hasn't been performed, the rest of her body is impacted. Her spine, sometimes her arms hurt her, sometimes she can't move her neck, she gets dizzy at times, she can't eat because she has to move her head up and down, and she's gone through a lot. She feels her life basically is just slipping away. It's been years, and she can't get the medical help she needs because her insurance company and the lawyer they have, Matthew Scarborough, lawyer from Tampa and Orlando, doesn't believe she requires any surgery. He's gotten copies of the doctor's letters. She's given him MRIs showing that there are, splits in her spine and her neck, and they refuse to pay or to admit that they have to pay. So Jane has been arguing with her auto insurance company, their lawyer, Matthew Scarborough, for now years. First, he's played some dirty tricks, like if you're not suing them, they can require, or they'll say, we want you to show up in Tampa for an examination under oath. I think that's what it's called. and she couldn't drive that far, so she said, I'm not going, I want something in Orlando. So after threatening her twice, they finally set something up in Orlando where she was able to go. And what I did is I video recorded the examination under oath, and it was interesting because I think the lawyer probably acted more appropriately instead of attacking her because I was there with a camera. And sometimes I video recorded him, sometimes I video recorded Jane Doe. But in any case, I wonder if anyone has ever done a study to see how many of the insurance companies pay out coverage from the underinsured or uninsured motorist fund that they collect, and realize if they don't pay out money, that's pure profit, which is what they want. So I think that has to be looked at, because realize she was in 2 or 3 accidents, and the underinsured or uninsured is $100,000 for each accident that she's in. In any case, the doctor from Germany said that the surgery would take 6 to 8 hours, and when, again, she submitted a $3,000 bill to her auto insurance company, they refused to pay it. Effectively, she's been screwed by them over a period of 3 or 4 years. The lawyer believes that her claim is fraudulent, even after receiving medical reports from a German doctor. And as I said, he's a lawyer who works in Orlando and in Tampa. I wonder, and again, I don't know if I can get this information, but I wonder how much the insurance company might be paying him as a bonus if he gets people to stop their action against the insurance company. Again, the lawyer is Matthew Scarborough. The insurance company is Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Company. One of the problems is, and again, we'll throw this in, Jane has also tried to get a letter from her Medical Advantage insurance plan to take when she goes for an examination by a surgeon in the United States. However, they don't want to do that either. So it appears like you have 3 parts here who are looking for money, looking to prevent people from getting the insurance and the care that they should be getting. The other thing that's interesting is Florida, as every other state, now allows large companies to, quote, contribute to politicians under Citizens United, which was a Supreme Court case that said large companies are people and they have the right to, quote, buy off legislators, both on the federal level and on the state level. So what you do is you have large insurance companies, now you have doctors groups who are contributing to legislation or legislators, in fact maybe even drafting the legislation, because there should be no way that insurance companies should be able to stall paying for someone's medical health if a doctor approves of it. So you need to change the way doctors are paid, and if it has to go to mediation between doctors and insurance companies, maybe that's what should happen, so that the 2 groups feel they're in a better position, because right now the consumer who pays the insurance is literally not getting the medical help that they would be getting in so many other countries that have basically unified health care for everyone. And I think that's how I'm going to end this. But I think the issue of socialized medicine isn't being brought up by Biden. It isn't being brought up by our President Trump. One of the reasons is, I'm sure, that both of them are getting, contributions from large donors, and they're not going to step on their donors' feet. So I think that's something that should be looked at on a national level. So we do have socialized medicine. It's been something that I guess 20 or 30 different countries have, European, Canada, and whatever. And I think that the way our country has been changing in the last 20 and 30 years, not only the insurance companies, but many other large companies are making billions, and the people who work for them are not getting parts of that to cover costs of inflation, costs of medical care, or anything else. And I think that I look back to, I'll tell a little story about Ronald Reagan. When he was running for president, some reporter asked him why he made only 2 movies a year. And he said, well, my contract says I get paid $50,000 a movie for each movie that I make. And after that, most of the money I make goes to the government. So he just stopped making movies at that point. And I guess what's happened in the last 30 years or 40 years since Reagan was president is the tax bases and the tax rates that have been paid by large companies has gone down. And we've shrunk our middle class, and in many ways I believe we're now a third world country, because our cost of living is going up. People literally are going broke and can't afford their rents now because of the COVID virus. And we have to do something about it. I'd like to see both President Trump and Vice President Biden say that they're not going to cut Social Security for the elderly, since I'm, let's say, above 70 at this point and can't see my Social Security that I worked for 40 years basically reduced. I see our country's in terrible financial straits. We're going to eventually have inflation. The dollar is worth less than it was in the last 10 or 15 years because of the printing of money. Our money is nothing but paper, and if people don't have a trust in the dollar, it's going to mean that all of the prices that we pay are going to go up. And I don't, at 70 plus, want to go back to work. I'll be honest about it. Oh, by the way, I did receive a law degree from a university in Florida, Barry University, and I did pass the Florida bar and the New York bar, but both of them refused me entry, saying, well, New York said I was too litigious, meaning that I sue people too frequently, and Florida used stuff from 15 or 20 years ago when I was going through a divorce, and they used that. And I guess what I see is that one of the problems with the Florida bar, the New York bar, any bar, is they're an organization that controls their members. And very frequently, I can tell you when a lawyer may be acting inappropriately. However, if I file a complaint, they're saying there was privilege or there was something else. So effectively in Florida, I know they've thrown out the rules of professional conduct. They're good on paper, but I do not believe the Florida bar is enforcing them except selectively. Okay, thank you very much.